It took 2 halves and 2 overtimes for the latest Arizona State collapse. Happy Wednesday, and everybody, welcome to Therapy on the PHNX Sun Devils show. Of course, we're coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. I am Anthony Totri. I'm going to be leading this therapy session this evening. We've got the captain of this vessel, of this beautiful, beautiful ship, and my partner in crime as it relates to therapy, Captain Redbeard, of course, Kyle Cooper. Guys, the reason that we're doing therapy tonight, the reason that we're doing a walk of shame this lovely Wednesday evening is because Arizona State lost in double overtime to Texas Tech 111-106. If you were not a fan of either one of these teams, then this was probably the most electric college basketball game offensively that you saw so far in 2025. If you were a Tech fan, then my goodness, you were jumping up and down to JT Toppin's 41 points, 10 more than his brother scored in the NBA this evening. And if you had the displeasure of finding yourself on the maroon and gold side of this double overtime loss, well, then you stumbled into the right place, because I am sure we are all feeling a lot of emotions as the final buzzer went off in this one. Grab a drink. We all need it. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. We have a ton to get into this evening. BC leading it off, though, with realistically the topic of conversation. The turnovers in overtime killed them. Arizona State finished the entirety of that game with 12 turnovers. Kyle, off the top of your head, you could tell me if you've already looked. Do you know how many overtime turnovers Arizona State had?
I haven't looked. I'm going to guess 5.
6. 50% of Arizona State's turnovers for the game came in overtime. A number of times it felt like we saw those turnovers coming after timeouts, which is inexcusable, right? The entire point of the timeout at that point in the game, you're drawing up a play. You're drawing up something that you like, something maybe that you've practiced, something completely new, right? The communication has to be there. You got to tip your cap to Texas Tech. Overall, though, defensively, nobody played well. 111 for Texas Tech. That's the most points they've ever scored in a Big 12 basketball game. And I don't know if we have anybody in the chat that could tell me the last time a Bobby Hurley coach team scored 106 points in a conference game. I'm waiting, right? You can't afford to have those turnovers at these key moments, especially this coming just a week after Arizona State was in a similar position, it felt like, right? Maybe not in overtime, maybe not as high scoring, maybe different players involved. But a week ago, we found ourselves watching Arizona State blow a 15-point lead and being unable to find a way to will it together in crunch time. I said it to Kyle while we were watching the game. Arizona State, tie ball game. Second half, less than a minute to play. You have a way and an opportunity to get out of here with a dub, right? Hold it for the last shot. Take your shot that you like, and we can get out of here with the biggest win of the season. And the guys back in Phoenix don't have to do a therapy session. They could do a post-game party instead. So there you go. Adam Miller scores a phenomenal bucket. Phenomenal bucket. 10 seconds left in the game. In regulation. Texas Tech, no timeouts. Arizona State, up 2. What do you do in that situation? A genuine question to everybody in the chat. And a question to you, Captain Redbeard. What do you do? You're up 2 points in a game that's been nothing but offensive fireworks the entire game. The opposition doesn't have a timeout. What do you do?
Run out the clock.
You run out the clock. So you're not calling a timeout in that situation if you're Bobby Hurley.
I don't think so.
I don't think I'm calling a timeout in that situation either.
Run out the clock.
I'm making Texas Tech's 5 out there do it on their own. Don't give them time to think about it. Don't give your defense time to think about it. Just go play ball. 1 possession for the game, right? I understand the flip side of that is you get the opportunity to set your defense. I don't love it. I don't love taking a timeout in that situation. I'm sure Hurley has his reasons. I personally don't do that. Then you get to overtime, the first overtime. You have a chance to win the game, right? Got a tie ball game. You have a timeout. And I turn to them, Kyle and Damon, and they get a test of this. And I say, Arizona State is going to take it up, turn it over. Texas Tech's going to score, and we're going to get out of here with a first overtime loss. That's what I thought was going to happen. I was pretty close. And again, this is not me rooting for downfall. This is just what I've seen from this team to make me believe where they go any given night. And wouldn't you know, they turned it over. And if it wasn't for a ridiculous block by BJ Freeman, we wouldn't have even probably got that second overtime. And then in the second overtime, well, it started to fall apart. The shots that were falling in the first half, the second half, even times in overtime, the first one, weren't hitting. And the team that had been running offense found a way to get it done, right? Now, I will say, you have to credit Arizona State for the fight they showed tonight, specifically the players, right? 106 points. You are minus your 5-star center, who has been masterful all season long, especially defensively. And trust me, we will get into that. The absence and the importance of having Jaden Quaintance in the paint. But BJ Freeman, Amier Ali, Josan Sannon coming off the bench, Sean Phillips at times, Adam Miller. They did it with a short rotation against the number 12 team in the country on the road. Say what you want about Hurley. Say what you want about the coaching. Tonight, these guys left it all on the floor. Were there mistakes? Yes. Were there errors that ultimately cost Arizona State the game down the stretch? Yes. Does it excuse itself that they were shorthanded? Probably not. But at the end of the day, this team could have very easily laid down. A 12-11 team, a team that is second to last in this conference in conference play, could have easily laid down, and they didn't. You got to tip your cap to the players on that side. And offensively, I mean, it was fireworks. Again, 111 to 106. You don't see that in college basketball very often. Right? Arizona State, 55% from the floor tonight? Are you kidding me? When was the last time we saw Arizona State shoot at a clip like that? Like JJB says in the chat, bummer, you would have loved to win a game like this, right? You needed it. We talked all week, right, that you needed to win out for Bobby Hurley to keep his job. You needed these types of games to build momentum, to put together some last-ditch effort of hope. And you fought. They fought literally to the bitter end. Dom in the chat saying we did lay down, Totri. We played tight. Do you feel that way, Kyle?
What, play them tight?
No, that they laid down.
What do you mean?
Like they gave up.
ASU?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I felt like they fought the entire game.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like that's what Dom is saying there.
Yeah.
I don't think this team gave up. I think they definitely had, opportunities. And this game was an opportunity in and of itself to really steer the ship. And they weren't able to get it done. We do have former Texas Tech and former Arizona State tight end Jalen Conyers in the chat saying 2-0, by the way. Listen, man, aren't you on to the NFL draft? You don't get to claim Texas Tech anymore. You're not in college anymore. Let's get a big boy job, Jalen. Okay, let's go. Let's do something about that. No, it's again. You have to tip your cap to Texas Tech and specifically JT Toppin. Like JT Toppin was unguardable this evening. 41 points, 15 boards, 1 assist, 2 blocks, and 3 steals. This guy did it all for the Red Raiders tonight. 17 of 22 from the floor, 6 of 11 from the charity stripe. JT Toppin played like the best player on the court by far. And you know what? He played like the biggest player on the court by far. Arizona State, without Jaden Quaintance, was certainly the defense in the paint was a liability for Arizona State. Like, you had no size, you had no strength, and I get it. Sean Phillips Jr. is a big dude, right? He's big, he's tall, I get it. He couldn't hang with JT Toppin tonight. Quaintance, I would have loved to see it. I would have loved to see that matchup, and hopefully we get it in the last game of the season in Tempe. I hope we get to see that. I hope Quaintance is better by then. But they didn't have a presence in the paint tonight, especially on defense. Does that completely change the outcome of the game? Maybe, potentially. I think you look at the way this game is played, you watch it, and I think you can make an argument that Arizona State wins this game if Jaden Quaintance is out there. Now you can't control injuries like that, right? Didn't even make the trip because of the injury. That's tough. And you don't have a ton of bigs on this roster. Bashir Jihad, you had him out there tonight, didn't play his best game offensively or defensively. Sean Phillips brought a lot to the offense defensively. Clearly it wasn't there, right? Otherwise, JT Toppin's not going for 41. It is what it is. Jalen in the chat saying, Totri, just tell who to draft me, and I will have a big boy job, buddy. I'll get right on that. I will absolutely get on that. Jalen also saying, what's up with you looking like a wannabe in Top Gun? Jeez, man. It's not enough that Texas Tech had to win the game. You got to come at the haircut here. The only reason I have this haircut is because Arizona State basketball lost to U of A, last week, 2 weeks ago? That's the situation. Okay? That's where I'm at. Varn in the chat saying, Totri's right. What a fight. Hurley is a fighter. Let's fight for a lifetime contract for Hurley. I may be right, but I am not fighting for that at the moment. Okay? Captain Redbeard, do we have by the numbers available? Perfect. Let's go ahead. Get to by the numbers presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union named by Forbes. Of course, the only number that matters is that final score, $111 to $106 in favor of Texas Tech. Leading scores for both these squads tonight. JT Toppin, like we said, taking the top off, 41 points. Adam Miller with 22. Both teams shot at a ridiculous clip tonight. 40 of 72, 56% for the Devils, 39 of 68 for Texas Tech. That comes out to about 57%. Quick math. From three-point land, 48% for the Devils and 38% for Texas Tech. This is a big one here. Rebounds, 38 to 27. The edge goes to Texas Tech. The rebounding numbers obviously have been an issue for Arizona State, not just in this game, but it feels like rebounding has been an issue anytime Jaden Quaintance isn't out there. And that makes sense, right? But for me, it's not just the rebounding in and of itself, but it's the offensive rebounds. Arizona State only had 5 offensive rebounds in this game. Texas Tech on the other side had 11, right? I don't know if it's more effort, like you just need more effort on the glass offensively. You need more size in the offseason, but something has to change, right? And I feel like we have these conversations a lot about this needs to change, X, Y, and Z. Offensively, what do you got going? Tonight, like, what are we talking about when the offense? Like, they scored 106 points. Offensively, I mean, I don't know. I can't sit here and bang on the table and say the offense has to change. I mean, the one-on-one basketball worked. It worked in the first half. It worked in the second half. And it kind of crumbled in overtime, right? Wasn't sustainable. And for Texas Tech, 10 more points in the paint, 6 more offensive rebounds. They just had a little bit more juice tonight. That's what this was. That's what it boils down to. Is the better team who had been playing better basketball all year long found a way to be clutch when it mattered. Arizona State is yet to do that. Now, it was a tough opponent on the road. Maybe you take that. Maybe there's a moral victory in here somewhere, but I think Arizona State fans, tell me if I'm wrong here, don't really want moral victories. Don't really want to, at the end of a double overtime game in the Big 12, be saying, well, we fought hard. We did it, right? It's not what you want. You want to be the team that scored a $111 tonight. You want to be the team that had a guy go for 41 tonight and do it on a home floor. Not the team talking about 6 of 12 turnovers for a ball game coming in 2 overtimes. It's not what you want to talk about right now. Cole in the chat saying, what has to happen to make the tournament? Well, that is a phenomenal question that we're going to get to on the other side of this quick break. Guys, I'm here to tell you the clock is ticking. The Sanderson Ford 48-hour President's Day sale starts this Thursday, okay? If you are here watching on a Wednesday night, know that the sale starts tomorrow. In celebration of Arizona being the 48th state of the union and Ford trucks being number 1 in sales in Arizona and across the country for 48 years straight, Sanderson Ford is having a 48-hour only sale on over 800 new and pre-owned vehicles, many with savings of $4,800 or more. Save $4,800 on a 2024 Bronco Sports, plus get an additional $480 Visa gift card with every new vehicle purchase or lease. Guys, look, the Bronco Badlands offer includes $1,000 in RBC, $1,750 in RCC cash, and $1,000 Jeep Open Conquest cash. You must qualify for Visa gift card, not valid on AXZ or D plans or Raptor, Tremor trucks, and specialty vehicles. Look, also here to tell you about Phoenix Raceway. NASCAR returns to the Valley March 7th through the 9th. The stars of NASCAR battle it out for the Shriners Children's 500 at Phoenix Raceway. If you guys have never been out to the track before, it really is beautiful, especially with the weather changing. Go out there, take the family, make a day, make a weekend out of it. There is nothing like witnessing a live NASCAR battle at 200 miles per hour on this 1-mile oval raceway in the foothills of Estrella Mountains. Guys, 40 drivers are going to compete amongst the likes of Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney. The list goes on and on. And of course, 2024 NASCAR Cup Series champion Joey Logano is going to be there as well. It is the best in-class fan experience the whole family won't forget. Get your tickets now at phoenixraceway.com. Guys, we appreciate everybody hopping in here, watching late for the therapy session. If you're listening on audio, if you're watching later, we appreciate you guys just as much to hear and to really express your emotions about Arizona State basketball. Jalen, love you as well, man. Best of luck, obviously, in the combine, the draft as well. Getting back to Cole's question, what has to happen to make the tournament if you are Arizona State? The answer may be as simple as it's ever been this season. You have to win the Big 12 championship. You have to win the Big 12 tournament. Because looking at what Arizona State has left down the stretch, you've got a game against Texas Tech at the end of the year at home. You got Houston. You got Arizona again. It's not really enough. It's not really enough because of what Arizona State has failed to do, and that is beat the teams you should beat. Beat the Kansas States. Beat the Oklahoma States. Beat the BYUs every now and then. This team is second worst in the conference in terms of conference play, right? Not a lot of wins, a lot of losses. You're running out of games in the regular season. You have to win the Big 12 championship to make the NCAA tournament. There is no other path for Arizona State to dance in March. That feels like the reality of the situation. And when we're talking about Arizona State, who just suffered their 12th loss of the season, 12-12, I believe, on the year. When we're talking about that team needing to win the Big 12 championship, which, mind you, features Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, Houston, this Texas Tech team, and several others. When we're talking about this team needing to win a tournament with all of those teams to make the NCAA tournament, we're not living in reality. The reality of the situation is you'll play the next 8 games, 7, 8 games, however many you have left. You'll play however many games you get in the tourney, the Big 12 tournament. And that'll be that, right? And I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, right? Because this is a therapy session. But that's the frustrating part about this, right? Is this team just put up 106 points, put up a dogfight without arguably their best player in Jaden Quaintance. They had a 4-star freshman tonight go off, career night. BJ Freeman played his heart out. Had a block that belongs on SportsCenter tonight. Alston Mason played nearly every minute of the game till he fouled out. You got phenomenal efforts from these guys. But phenomenal efforts, the moral victories for what? A 5-point L. That's the frustrating part. And that's where we're at. Will in the chat says 3-10 in conference play is terrible. If you look at the actual losses, you could say 3 or 4 are not awful. Baylor, Texas Tech, UA, and maybe Kansas State. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. This team has been bad in conference play. They've been bad in the Big 12. They haven't been average. Have they been good at times? They don't have a marquee win in this conference. Their wins are teams they should have beaten at the time. Their losses, some to good teams, many to not good teams. They play up and down to their competition. Right? Like, that's where we're at. That's this team. They've showed you who they are. They've showed you who they are. They're not going to change. Right? And I think a lot of the fan base feels that frustration. Do you feel that frustration? What's the most frustrating part about this one for you, Captain Redbeard? Again, I don't want to be too negative, but this feels like the tipping point, especially coming off the stretch that you did with Kansas State and Oklahoma State. Like, you had a chance at the end against number 12, and you almost found a way to lose it as opposed to finding a way to win.
I mean, overall, I wasn't actually that frustrated because they've been playing much worse recently in the past few games. And this one, offense looked great. I mean, defense, you don't have Jaden Quaintance, your best defensive player, on the court. So you really saw that tonight. And then as well with the rebounds, they just got killed on the glass when it mattered. But other than that, like, I think they showed a lot of fight, took them to double overtime, and I guess frustrated that they couldn't pull out the win because this could have been the win of the year for them. Like, this could have been like this moment where we look back, like I was saying last show, they turned around the season, and this was the moment that happened.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they fell short.
Yeah. I think that's a phenomenal point. This could have been that opportunity. This could have been exactly what we said they needed for the last however many games, right? You got to steer the ship. You got to turn it around. There's no better time to do it than against a top 15 team in the country in your conference, a team that is as hot as any team in college basketball is right now. Do it at their place. Get the momentum going. Let it snowball, right? Against some teams that you'll have upcoming that aren't good. Kansas State again. Utah. Maybe Kansas State, it's not fair to throw them in there based off of what they've accomplished lately. But I'll throw in a Utah, right? There are other teams that you could look at that, hey, Arizona State has a chance. TCU, right? Like, this could have been that game to do it. And to be able to do it on the road, to do it under these circumstances, would have been huge, right? To be able to capitalize off of what Amier Ali gave you tonight off the bench. To capitalize off what Adam Miller gave you. BJ Freeman. Now we're not so much talking about that. Now we're talking about, well, can you go like 4 of 4 down the stretch? Can you finish 500 on the year? That's what this is, right? It's tough. It's disappointing. There were some bright spots, though, and Amier Ali is one of those bright spots. That's why he is getting bottle service tonight. I believe for the first time, 18 points, 6 of 7 from the floor, 7 boards. This kid was everything and more tonight for Arizona State off the bench. The Sun Devils as a whole, and mind you, we know that they don't get a lot of production from the bench. Only scored, 26 bench points tonight. 18 of the 26 came from Amier Ali. He was efficient. Again, 6 of 7 from the field, 4 of 5 from 3. Didn't miss from the charity stripe. Throw in 2 steals as well, playing 34 minutes off the bench. Big minutes for the freshman who it needed this game. Amier Ali needed this game. Shake off some of the rust. This is an opportunity for you where, hey, we need more offensive production. Like we've said all show, this was fireworks offensively, okay? We are going back and forth, and you need a guy coming off the bench to give you the spark because Texas Tech had it. Amier Ali was your guy tonight. You absolutely love to see this kid slowly start to develop, and you really hope that he stays. You really hope that you're able to build off these types of performances for Amier Ali, Josan Sannon, Jaden Quaintons, and keep those going into 2026. You really hope that that is the case, and that's what you get from a game like this. Amier Ali wasn't alone in his effort. I know it wasn't a dub, but you got to give some credit to some other guys here. Sean Phillips, 15 points, 7 of 9 from the floor. He was pretty efficient as well. 6 boards. You'd love to see him be a little bit more active down there, especially given the fact that this was a double overtime game. You didn't have your starting center. You don't have a whole lot of other bigs. Like, Amier Ali actually led the team in rebounds tonight with 7. Sean Phillips, you need a little bit more on the glass on that end. BJ Freeman, I mean, he's been a walking bucket all year. It really is unfortunate that he's had this type of year and the team overall has had this season. 21 points. He was efficient, 8 of 17 from the floor as well. 3 of 4 from the charity stripe. 3 steals. Like this, offensively or defensively, Arizona State was forcing turnovers. And they were capitalizing too. It was just, it's tough to make sense. Like, you watching this game, you're like, okay, they're forcing turnovers and they're scoring. How are they losing this game? Well, they're turning it right back over in key moments, right? And then Tech would go back and hit a 3, it felt like, or go to the line. Like, it was just gut-wrenching stuff, especially in that double overtime. I think in regulation, me and Damon were watching the game, and Kyle's in here getting ready for the show. Arizona State takes a 2-point lead, and then they run down the court and score, and I hear an audible no from Kyle just in the studio. That's it. That's the feeling, I feel like, to sum up what everybody is feeling from this game. 5-point loss after all that. Just no. Like, that's all you can really muster up from a game like this. It's heartbreaking, and I know there are Arizona State fans that want to believe, And you got to, right? That's all you can really do at this point is just believe that there's going to come a time where it turns around down the stretch here. And you got to look beyond this year. You got to look beyond this season because there's a lot of young talent on this team that you pray and knock on wood and do rain dances for, do whatever you got to do to keep these freshmen, to keep these guys going into next year. And build around them, build around that nucleus, a nucleus that evidently needed Jaden Quaintance tonight in the paint. Defensively, offensively, on the glass, it would have been massive. A nucleus that has a three-point shooter in Josan Sanin that feels like he can be a elite scorer at this level. Just got to hone it in a little bit, tighten it up a little bit. A nucleus with Amier Ali as a freshman. 18 points again, led the team in rebounds as well with 7. 2 steals, 4 of 5 from three-point land. It's a promising group. You just have to find a way to keep them at Arizona State next season. These losses hurt. They are difficult. They are tough, right? And if you're an Arizona State fan, you've been feeling a lot of these lately, right? All in kind of different fashions. With the loss to Kansas State, the loss to Oklahoma State, this one. They're finding new ways. They're keeping you on your toes at least, right? They're not giving you a boring finish in this one. 106-111, JT Toppin scoring 41 points. Gross, right? And we've talked a lot about the overtimes in and of itself because, of course, that's where the game was won and lost. But on the other side of this break, I want to get into the rest of the game. I want to get into the first half with you guys. I want to get into the second half. What do we see? What do we like? What do we dislike? What are we going to laugh about? What are we going to cry about? What are we going to throw our phones at the wall about? All on the other side of this break. I have a question for you, Captain Redbeard. Okay? Are you by chance looking for a healthier way to relieve aches and pains while getting a better night's sleep?
Does sound nice.
It does. So try Cornbread Hemp's USDA organic CBD gummies. Cornbread offers the first, that's right, we said the first USDA organic CBD gummy in the U.S. Okay, here's what sets Cornbread CBD gummies apart. Well, full spectrum, USDA certified organic, made from flower only, never the whole plant, guys. Third party lab tested for potency and contaminants and so much more. It's vegan, dairy free, and gluten free with no artificial flavors or preservatives. They have got you covered. If you want to give Cornbread a try, they're offering PHNX listeners 30% off your first order. All you got to do is just visit cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX and use that promo code PHNX at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/PHNX and use that code PHNX for 30% off of your first order. It's a good life, guys. Also, want to tell you about the presenting sponsor in this studio. It's Circle K. Gosh, I love Circle K. I stopped at Circle K today, got myself one of those little blue Gatorades. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. It's the best flavor. You can always find it at Circle K. It's honestly tough for me to find other places. Look, Circle K, America's thirst shop. Join the Inner Circle. It's their free membership program. It's super easy to download. You can do it here in the next 30 seconds. Go to the App Store. Easy to download. Get enrolled. Then use your phone number to start scoring on those Circle K deals, like saving 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Every day after that, you guys can save 3 cents per gallon as well. Not to mention, there's plenty of other member-exclusive deals and discounts. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Let's see. Ruiz in the chat. What is heartbreaking is that effort and focus was great. Then they cough it up. Yeah. The energy, the focus, it was great, especially there in the first half of this game. The first half, Arizona State scored 45 points, the second most points that this team has scored in a first half of a basketball game this season. 106 at the end. Like we said earlier, offensively, it was clicking. You had it, right? And then, like Ruiz says, you cough it up at the end. Literally, you coughed up the basketball and gave Texas Tech an opportunity to win this game. Did Texas Tech do a lot of things to ultimately win this game? Yes, but at the end of the day, does it feel like Arizona State gave it up? Does it feel like Arizona State let Texas Tech win this game almost at the end? Gave them an opportunity, gave them life, threw them a life raft? Yes, that's what it feels like. Because you had the lead. You had the lead, 10 seconds left in this game. You call a timeout. You give them the opportunity. Then you go to overtime. You have an opportunity. Take the lead. You turn it over. Like, you had the opportunities and you gave them away to Texas Tech. Tough. Real tough. Well, in the chat, giving up 11 offensive rebounds is not good. Minus 11 rebounds total. C-. Do you at all affect that grade or look at that grade with a, maybe some different sunglasses on because Jaden Quaintance wasn't playing tonight? I think that's something that you may have to consider, right? It's tough to judge this entire game, especially in the paint, without Jaden Quaintance. He's your guy. He's your future, hopefully. Cactus Johnny in the chat says, no chance JQ comes back whether Hurley's here or not. I mean, that's the question, right? That's what everybody wants to know in Tempe as it relates to hoops, is how many, if any, of these freshmen are going to be back next season. Does Jaden Quaintance return? The 5-star freshman who has the Arizona State single-season block record, as a freshman, like just crushed it. Does he come back? Does Joe Sansanin, the guy that Hurley said is the best scorer that he's ever coached, does he come back? Does Amier Ali, who as the season's winding down, is slowly starting to develop and evolve into a guy that you're going to have to start giving more minutes to, does he come back? These are all questions that need to be answered. And I think the biggest question of them all is, does Hurley himself come back? That's what the fans want to know, right? Do they do it again? Do you ride this carousel of madness one final time? I don't know how you can. I really don't. Doesn't mean they won't. But I'm struggling and grappling and doing everything possible to rack my brain and find an answer for it about why they would do it again. Maybe you just fall in love with the recruiting so much that you talk yourself into another season. But I cannot wrap my head around it. About how you can see the last handful of seasons and you can say, yep, I want to ride that ride again. Like, do you, Kyle, do you want to ride this ride again for another season? And I know you're newer to ASU basketball, but let me tell you, this is what it's been for a long time.
This is kind of painful.
It is painful.
I'd like to see them be a little more successful and actually have like some better coaching, you know? I think that's pretty clear just from watching this season. The talent is one thing, and you can praise Bobby for that, and I think that's deserved. Great talent, great freshman. They've shown signs of excellence. They're 5-star recruits, but there needs to be another level here where this team needs to be consistent, and we need to actually compete with teams in the Big 12 like we did tonight, and do that on a nightly basis, in my opinion. That's what I'd like to see. I mean, you don't got to win all these games, but you need to at least compete, get close, and win more than you have.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
I agree. I think this is a game, and I think you bring up a good point, right? Like, you competed tonight. Tonight is not necessarily a great reflection of the season. It's not necessarily a great reflection of like how maybe some of these games have gone, and maybe some people disagree. Maybe this is a great reflection of how Arizona State's season has gone. I feel like for me, scoring 106 points tonight after the 2 games that you had over the last week, where one, you lose by double digits to arguably a team worse than you in this conference in Oklahoma State when you have 2 of your best scorers out with suspension, right? Or you look to the Kansas State game where at one point you were up 15 points, you choked that away. Say what you want about inbounds or free throws of that game, whatever, right? Those games feel like the more frustrating ones than this one. This is a game that you can almost like, if Arizona State wins those 2 games, or if they beat Arizona, or if there's any, combination of games down the stretch a few weeks ago that they win, this is a game where you're like, man, I still feel good. This number 12 team in the country, we're on the road. We played them tough. We had every opportunity to win. We fix a thing here or there. We're good. But we leave tonight being like, we're good, right? But because of the way that the season has transpired, because of the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games, this feels like the breaking point. And maybe the breaking point was different for others. Maybe you guys lost your mind at Oklahoma State on Super Bowl Sunday. Maybe that just really just did it for you. Maybe the free throws against Kansas State or any combination of what went down in the final 60 seconds of that one, maybe that one was your breaking point to where you were like, I'm done watching this game. Done watching this team. For me, this was the breaking point. Because like I said at the start of this show, you played a great half. You played a great 2 halves. You played a solid first overtime. And then you lost. Right? JJB, I know you're still here, buddy. You're always here. And I feel like I do this a lot comparing ASU football to ASU men's basketball. And maybe it's not fair. Maybe it's not. But 2 years ago at this point, Kenny Dillingham for football said, this team just doesn't know how to win yet. We need to find a way to win. How do you learn how to win? Well, you just do it, right? And once you do it, you slowly start to get the hang of it. You aren't necessarily as nervous or anxious in these pressure moments. You know what you need to be doing. You know where you need to be. You know who you need to be communicating with. He said that, I believe, after Arizona State lost to then top 5 team Washington after a pick 6. Or maybe it was one of the other games that Arizona State lost in that 3-9 season. But you flip it around, and what did they just accomplish, right? Everybody knows that's here. It was a masterful season. It can be done. This team just doesn't know how to win yet, right? And I think you can very clearly see that. You can see that this team is just, they're young, they're inexperienced. You have a ton of freshmen playing. Quaintance when he's healthy, Sandin when he's healthy, Amier Ali. You got inexperience at this specific level, right? On this stage, because you brought so many group of 5 guys over. BJ Freeman, Alston Mason, Bashir Jihad. They're talented players. Maybe they've got experience at a little bit slightly lower level, and that's not a knock on them. They are very talented. They demonstrated that this evening. But they don't know how to win these types of games as a team yet. So I think people couple that, the inexperience, maybe a team that will be good next year if they all stayed, which we know doesn't happen. Couple that with everything that the last half decade has been with Bobby Hurley. And the way those seasons have transpired, the way they've started, the way they've ended, the failures, the highs, the lows, the mountains, the valleys, the peaks. I think that's where you have the just insane feeling of emotion when you watch games like this. Because you know, right? I'm watching this basketball team and I'm telling you, and I feel like a lot of you can see it, is this team is a talent. Remove coaching entirely for a second. This team is talented and they can win. Okay? This team, I think, if they all stayed together next year, would be really, really good. And then you put in Bobby Hurley, and then maybe the conversation is, well, the talent is there, but is the coaching around them enough? Is it good enough? Is there a system? Will they develop? Will they get better? Does the pressure make diamonds in this situation? I think that's where you have the people going, I don't know. What do you think, Kyle? Saw you nodding your head back there a little bit. Do you agree that it's, everybody can see the talent part of this team, and it's more so when you throw in the idea of coaching that that's the problem?
I think that's the easy answer, right? Like everyone can see the talent, and then everyone's like, "Oh, why isn't this team winning more?" And then they point to the coaching. And I think when you look at Bobby Hurley, he's been here for a decade, and you're just like, well, if it hasn't worked over 10 years, why are we expecting it to work every year again?
Yeah.
Why are we as ASU fans just sitting there thinking, oh, we're getting hyped over the offseason, they got some recruits, it's going to be different this season. Even if we change conference, it's a little tougher. It's I don't know. I think, as I said, I'm new to this season this year for ASU basketball, but it just seems like with the talent that they have and the games that they've had be really close this year, like you said, I'm nodding my head because they just need to learn how to win, and that just separates them from the better teams in this conference. They pulled out wins.
Yeah. And the unfortunate thing is we all know this entire team is not going to be back next year. That's just the landscape of college basketball. Kyle, do you know the definition of insanity? I'm sure you do.
Oh, yeah.
Just doing the same thing over again, doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. I feel like that is Arizona State basketball, right? And for the fans out there that disagree with me wholeheartedly, I see you, I hear you, I know you're out there, I see the comments, right? And there are plenty of you that disagree with me that are full on Bobby Hurley should be back, and you are entitled to your opinion. But like Kyle said, you go back through the last 10 years. Yes, there have been highs. Yes, there have been lows. Everybody has highs and lows in the 10 years. But I think when it comes down to evaluating Arizona State basketball in Bobby Hurley over the last decade, have there been more highs than lows? I don't know if there have been. I don't know if there have been enough to warrant an 11th year. And not just warrant an 11th year, but warrant an 11th year where you had your best class ever. Where you didn't have the highest of expectations, but you had expectations, right? And ultimately, you haven't reached them. In fact, I'd say there really isn't anything you can do to reach those expectations. And I got to be true to what I said over the summer when all these guys committed. I said Arizona State fans deserve something. And you do. Arizona State basketball fans deserve showing up, or waking up, I should say, on Selection Sunday, sitting in their recliner and not having to sweat bullets about if their team is going to make the tournament. You turn on the TV on Selection Sunday with your cup of coffee and you say, we're in. I just want to know where we're playing and who. That hasn't been the case with Arizona State men's basketball with Bobby Hurley. It's been, I can't sleep the night before Selection Sunday because I don't know if we're heading to Dayton or not. And anytime you do make the tournament, you best believe you're heading to Dayton, Ohio. That's where you're going. That's not what Arizona State fans deserve in any sport, not just men's basketball. That's what I mentioned yesterday on the show about the standard and the ceiling being raised. As a program, as a fan base, screw that. I'm tired. I am tired of showing up to Selection Sunday nervous as hell. Are the Devils going to make it? You know how many programs don't have to worry about that? Where it's not one of every 4 years they make the tournament, but it's 3 of every 4. Wouldn't that be nice for a change? It starts with coaching, man. Bobby Hurley, I've mentioned it a great number of times. He's a great guy, great person. College basketball legend. Maybe this just isn't the right fit for either. Right? Maybe Bobby can be better somewhere else. But I know for a fact that Arizona State basketball can be better. How do I know? Because I just watched Arizona State football play in the Peach Bowl in the college football playoff against the Texas Longhorns. If they can do it, you telling me Arizona State basketball can't make the tournament 3 or 4 years? You're telling me that's insane? Like, where's the line? And it's not just Arizona State men's basketball. Like, this is, again, I don't want to have the same conversation I did yesterday, but it's the truth. While we're at therapy, right? There are a number of programs here that you should expect to be in the postseason. Softball, women's basketball. Those are the expectations now, right? If you don't have those expectations, then what the heck are we doing? Right? I don't know about you guys. I don't know about you, Kyle. I don't get excited for the start of the season so I can sit at, the end of the year and be like, man, my team played their butts off. Some great wins, some tough losses. We didn't make the postseason, but I don't watch sports for that. I don't root for sports like that. Root for championships, for postseason games. That's what you want. That's what you want to see. That's what Graham Rossini wants to see. That's what the fan base wants to see. But at what point does the clock strike midnight there? And I know we've kind of gone off the rails in regards to this game specifically, but that's where my mind's at. That's the only place that my mind is at right now with this game. It was a phenomenal basketball game. And like I said off the top, if you didn't have any ties to Arizona State, you're watching this game saying this is one of, if not the best college basketball game of the season in 2025. A double overtime thriller. Every basket is going in. A top 12 team against a team that's been just fighting and battling in the mud all season. Injuries, right? Suspensions. It was a hell of a game. Just if you weren't rooting for Arizona State, right? It's tough. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. I do want to get to the Bobby board. Take a look at what Arizona State has left in the 2024-2025 season. Guys, 2 of the last, 9 games have been dubs for the Sun Devils. 2 of 9. That is not good. How about 2 of 11? Can I interest you in that? Can I interest you in 2 of 11, Captain Redbeard? Look, Arizona State, you got TCU, Houston, Kansas State, BYU, Utah, Arizona, and then Texas Tech one final time. That's what you have in front of you. I tweeted it out the other day. Any conversation, any thought of NCAA tournament needs to be thrown out the window, and I don't say that in a facetious way. I say that in the ideology and of the camp being that, hey, you just have to go play what's in front of you. If I'm Bobby Hurley, if I'm Arizona State, I'm taking it this one game at a time. And I know it's cliche. I'm only thinking about TCU on Saturday. And when that's done, then we talk about Houston. Then we worry about Houston. The season ends after each game. That's where you are at. In the part of retainment with some of these guys, retention needs to start a week ago. You got to be working every possible way within the rules to keep these guys in Tempe next season. I think that is now where we are looking if we are Bobby Hurley and we're talking about staying and doing another year. I genuinely do. I could be entirely wrong. That's where I'm at, though. That's where I'm at. And Bobby Hurley knows a hell of a lot more about basketball than I do. But that just feels like the natural progression that we are in right now. Given everything that's transpired tonight, that transpired over the last week, the last month, the last season, the last decade. It's all led us to right here. We'll see what comes of it for Arizona State. But as it stands right now, TCU. That's where your attention goes. And of course, we'll be live for a PHNX Sun Devils postgame show because That's what we do. Win, loss, draw, fun, sad, all of it. We'll be here for it. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're here in what is hopefully a party on Saturday, as opposed to another therapy session, because I'll be honest, I can't handle 2 therapy sessions in 1 week. I just can't do it. It's more than the recommended dosage for me personally. I don't know about Captain Redbeard, but that's just me. Okay. BC, at least they have a good non-conference record. Yeah. At least they have a good non-conference record. We can sleep easy at night knowing that, right? And I want to apologize. I said this out there, and I'm glad I'm just now remembering it. I would like to apologize. And maybe I didn't see it at the start, right? I talked myself throughout non-con of like, hey, maybe this team can be a middle of the pack tournament team in the Big 12. I said that to myself at one point. I apologize. But I looked in the mirror and I said, where did this happen? Where did I go wrong? Where was my belief rooted in? And it was rooted in hanging around against Gonzaga, who is not in the AP top 25, right? My belief hung in that game, hung in the fact that we took it to them on the road and still lost that game, by the way. And that team is no longer in the AP top 25. So I apologize for that. That was poor judgment on my end. But we have hit that time, that minute in the day, that hour within the hour where it is closing time, presented by the Carol Royce team, your home sold guaranteed realty, where Carol will guarantee to sell your home for 100% of market value, or she's going to pay you the difference. Learn more at carolroyceteam.com. My takeaway from this game between Arizona State and Texas Tech, the game of the year for Arizona State, win, loss, or draw, arguably the game of the year in college basketball, is this: retain the freshman. You needed Quaintance tonight in the paint to stop JT Toppin. You need him back next year. Josan Sannon, 8 first half points. He looked smooth. He looked crisp. That development aspect, you need it. How do you get that? Well, hey, come back to Tempe next season. And then, of course, the man who got bottle service tonight, Amier Ali, 18 points, a team-leading 7 rebounds and 2 steals off the bench for Arizona State. All 3 of those freshmen, all 3 of the guys that we're talking about going into the season being the cream of the crop, the premier Devils on the roster. Well, hey, you need to come back next season. That's what it's going to take. And that's the takeaway from tonight's game. Guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. If you enjoyed the content, which I hope you do, give us a follow at PHNX Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony _Totri. You can follow Captain Redbeard, who is always doing therapy with me, guys. It's Captain Redbeard. Follow him at KCoop Sports. We will be back on Thursday, our usual time, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Be there or be square, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, sleep well. Go Devils. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.